There are 10 money personalities. 9 of them are bleeding you. One of them is the only psychology that ends with peace. I'm going to rank all 10, using the Straw Hat crew, because Oda built a textbook financial archetype into every single one of them, whether he meant to or not. By the end of this video, you'll know which one you've been. And the number you land on tells you exactly what your money habits are actually costing you. We're going least costly to most. Number 10 is fine. Number 1 is bleeding. 10. Jinbei. The only one who's okay. Financial maturity isn't about having the most money. It's about reaching the point where money stops being the question. The research on this is consistent. CFP studies show that financial outcomes in retirement correlate more strongly with psychological relationship to money than with income level. The person who never panicked through a recession, never chased a hot stock, never needed to perform wealth to feel it, that person retires. The person who earned twice as much and did all 3 things often doesn't. Look at Jinbei, former warlord, a lifetime of resources and access. He joins the crew last, without explanation, without needing to prove anything about where the money came from or where it went. He steers the ship. He doesn't perform. He doesn't hoard. He doesn't chase. If you scored Jinbei, you don't need this video. But you're probably not Jinbei. 9. Frankie. Spend on capability, not visibility. The single most predictable difference between people who build real wealth and people who display it, where they direct spending. Visible spending, the car, the watch, the apartment upgrade, depreciates the moment you acquire it. Capability spending, tools, skills, infrastructure, compounds. The carpenter who buys a $400 saw because it pays for itself in 3 jobs is running a different financial logic than the one who buys it because it looks professional. The outcome diverges fast. Frankie spends everything on the ship, the tools, the next build. 0 personal accumulation. Total reinvestment into what makes him better at what he does. The Thousand Sunny isn't a purchase. It's infrastructure. It carries the entire crew across the world long after the money was spent. The actually wealthy people in your life, the ones with real wealth, not display wealth, almost all run this operation. Spend on capability. Let visibility take care of itself. 8. Robin. Stealth wealth is real wealth. The most accurate signal of genuine wealth is the absence of a signal. The Federal Reserve's survey of consumer finances confirms what the research on high net worth households has shown for decades. The highest net worth quintile spends a smaller share of income on visible status goods than the middle class does. The Millionaire next door documented it in 1996. It hasn't changed. Real wealth dresses unremarkable. The visible flex is almost always leverage, not assets. If you can identify someone as wealthy in 5 seconds, they probably aren't. Robin has more than the rest of the crew knows. Languages, knowledge, access, contacts in every sea. She never displays it. When she needs something, it appears. She grew up being watched, and she learned that visibility is a liability. The architecture of never needing to prove it is the architecture of actually having it. 7. Brooke. Starting late is not the same as not starting. The mathematics of late financial starts are real. Compounding from a smaller base over fewer years produces less. That is true. What is also true is that the mathematics of never starting are total. The IRS acknowledges the gap with catch-up contribution rules. Savers 50 and older can contribute an additional $7,500 per year to a 401k on top of the standard limit, with even higher allowances in the early 60s. The policy exists because starting late still works. The gap is not a verdict. It is a starting line with a shorter runway. Brook lost 50 years to being alone on a ship with no crew. He arrives in the present world, decades behind everyone else. He learns the new world from scratch. He plays every night. He doesn't apologize for the gap or collapse under its weight. He starts from where he is. The cost of starting late is real. The cost of treating the gap as a reason not to start is everything. 6. Nami. High income does not fix a scarcity wound. Nami grew up under Arlong. 100 million berries between her village and destruction. She learned money as survival before she learned it as tool. She charges the crew for navigation. She has a hidden safe. She knows the price of everything in every port before they dock. She has money now. She cannot stop counting it. The person in your life who appears to have their finances together, who tracks every expense, charges for favors, never spends without calculating, is sometimes the most controlled by money, not the most free from it. Princeton economists Mullainathan and Shafir documented why. The mental bandwidth consumed by financial anxiety produces a deficit equivalent to roughly 13 IQ points. The finding that matters is this: the deficit is caused by the psychological experience of scarcity, not by the objective financial condition. People with full accounts who grew up without can still operate in scarcity mode. The wound outlives the circumstances that created it. High income doesn't uninstall the scarcity program. It just gives it more to protect. 5. Zoro. Apathy is not discipline. It is a tax you volunteer to pay. Zoro doesn't know what his bounty is. He bought a sword without asking the price. He gets lost every time. Money, to Zoro, is something other people are tracking somewhere, and that's their job. He is not wrong that the sword is worth buying. He is bleeding slowly from every direction he isn't watching. 1 in 3 Americans don't know their credit score. 40% cannot cover a $400 emergency, not because they don't have $400, but because they have never looked. Vanguard's research on expense ratios shows what that inattention costs. The difference between a low-cost index fund and a high-fee actively managed fund, invisible to the inattentive investor, erases hundreds of thousands of dollars over a working lifetime. The bleeding is silent because they never look down. If you haven't opened your bank app in 2 weeks, you are here. 4. Chopper. Fear is the most expensive interest rate. The financial cost of keeping money outside the banking system is measurable and relentless. The FDIC reports that 4.5% of US households are unbanked. The most cited reason: distrust of financial institutions. The cost of that distrust: inflation running at 3 to 7% annually eats savings sitting in cash. No FDIC protection, no interest, no compound growth. The money feels safe because it is physically present. It is losing value every day it sits there. Chopper lost Dr. Hiraluk to a moment when the medicine wasn't there in time. Now, nothing is ever enough. He stockpiles every herb, carries every supply. The fear that created the behavior was rational once. The behavior outlived the threat by years. Every dollar held outside a system that grows, it is paying an invisible fee to the fear that keeps it there. 3. Sanji. Limitless generosity is a slow self-cancellation. Generosity without structure is not generosity. It is the gradual transfer of your financial future to everyone except yourself. Pew Research has tracked the pattern in families. Roughly 6 in 10 parents continue financial support to adult children, often into the parents' own retirement years. The pattern is most concentrated in first-generation earners and oldest siblings. The family financier who cannot say no, who picks up every tab, who lends money with no expectation of return and calls it love. The kindness is real. The math is fatal. Sanji feeds the man who tried to kill him. He will go hungry before the crew does. Every resource that comes through his hands moves outward. He grew up being denied food by people who were supposed to love him. Now he controls the food. Now he decides who eats. The generosity is genuine. The reason underneath it is not simple. Money you give away before you look at it is still money you are afraid to look at. 2. Luffy. Present bias costs roughly 30% of lifetime earnings. Behavioral economists have measured the lifetime cost of hyperbolic discounting, the brain's tendency to weight immediate reward so heavily that future cost becomes invisible. The estimates converge around 30% of total earnings for people who score high on it. That is not a rounding error. That is a decade of work, paid to the inability to feel the future as real. Half of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. The future self is theoretical. The current self is hungry. The current self wins by default, every time, until something forces a meeting with the person at the end of the timeline. Luffy cannot hold money. Not won't. Cannot. The concept of saving for a future need doesn't process. There is only now, and now there is meat, and the money is gone. He is not reckless. He is mathematically incapable of waiting next year above tonight, because next year contains a person he hasn't met. You don't fail to plan. You fail to believe the planner exists. 1. Usopp. Status performance has compound interest too. The most expensive money personality is not the one that spends the most. It is the one that borrows to perform a life it doesn't have. The Federal Reserve's data on revolving credit. Average household balance, $6,500. Average interest rate, 24%. That's $1,560 per year, paid in interest alone. Not on anything owned, on the performance of having it. The sneakers, the financed car. The vacation that went on a card already behind. The person drowning in this is not broke. They are performing wealth they don't have, and paying compound interest on the performance. Usopp claims to be the captain of 8,000 men. He has a slingshot and a fishing village. The lies are not a character flaw. They are the cheapest available version of the wealth display he cannot afford. He grew up knowing the exact social price of being the poor kid, and he decided he would pay any other cost to never be seen as him again. The lie of being further along is more expensive than the truth of where you are. And unlike most debts, this one charges interest on your identity, not just your balance. 10 archetypes, 9 of them leaking. The one you want to be is Jinbei. The one you actually are is the section that made you defensive. Not the one you found relatable. The one you argued with in your head. The one you were sure wasn't you. Your money personality isn't a personality. It's the shape the first financial lesson you ever learned left behind. The question isn't which straw hat you admire. The question is which one you've been paying for without knowing it. You join a crew. You bring your money wounds. The only question is whether you've named yours yet.